So now we've got a session where we have the University of Queensland presenting their experiences with Schedule Plus. The University of Queensland was one of the first to actually come and talk to us about wanting a new solution, a new timetabling solution, and became one of our evaluation clients in 2020. Before that, they actually implemented Allocate Plus in 2019 and got to see what JDR was like as a vendor, got to see what our approach was to getting new solutions in place. And then we started the parallel trial earlier this year, just after we'd released Schedule Plus. So we will have two people from University of Queensland talking. One is Vivian Counter. I was just telling Vivian the first time, do you remember the first time that we met? We met before that even thought about Allocate Plus. We had a meeting with, Vivian was the program manager of the EASE program, or at that stage she was taking over as the program manager. This was, I want to say 2018 probably, yeah. And they were looking at Allocate Plus. So we had a nice long chat. She's been in the education space for over 15 years. I'm dating you now, Vivian. At UQ for over 9 years. She didn't tell me any of this. I found this out on my own. So, you know, what we actually love about Vivian and Eve, we'll talk. I'll mention Eve in a minute, is the fact that they think all of these things through with us. For Schedule Plus, the solution that we have in place, and what the ramifications are of each decision point that we make. So, you know, vast lot of experience with Vivian and also with Eve. Eve has been in the education space for over 12 years and 7 years at UQ, through a couple of babies at UQ, and she's one of the timetablers. She's working in the timetabling area. She has been for a while, timetabling manager there. And she has an unbelievable understanding of timetabling, specifically at UQ, but actually across the whole board. So from our perspective, we couldn't think of a couple of better suited people to come and evaluate Schedule Plus. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Vivian and Eve, and they're here to talk about Schedule Plus, and I'll keep my fingers crossed that they say good things.
So Rohit's really starting to worry now about what we're going to say, and we're really just here to give you our journey through Schedule Plus. And I think my higher education experience is probably more than double that he gave me credit for, but that really does age me. So I'm Vivian. I'm program manager still in IT application delivery. Evelyn, who is the senior timetable analyst and knows all about timetabling. So I'm just here more to talk about the process, and then Evelyn will take you through some of the details of what she's found out. UQ, I'm sure most of you have heard of UQ. It's a large institution in Queensland, over 52,000 students, 56,000 students, a large research body, a very large research institution. It's ranked in the top 100 in the world. Large postgrad and component as well. We have 6 faculties, about 8 institutes, many schools, and it's a located. We have 3 campuses: Gatton, St Lucia, Thurston, mostly on campus. So we are a mostly on-campus university, but of course with COVID we are now in this not sure what we are. We have high flex, multimodal, online. I'm sure all of you are in the same boat with the new delivery modes, and there's lots and lots of flexibility needed in how we deliver things. We have some serious space constraints. We have a lot of buildings, but we also have a big demand. We have a very just decentralized model So our schools and faculties manage some of the rooms themselves, manage some of our timetables themselves. We do have a central team, which Alan works for, but it's different as well. The different faculties manage them slightly differently. The different schools manage them slightly differently, some at the school level, some at the faculty level. Evelyn will give you a bit more about the complication, but we're talking about 60,000 activities in our system, 25,000 timetabled activities, about 7,000 per week, with about 14,000 different staff. So it really is a hell of a task to manage. We're a PeopleSoft in Campus Solutions, student management system. We've, as Ray said, we're Allocate Plus class allocation, and Syllabus Plus enterprise version, and we also have our room booking using Syllabus Plus Resource Booker at the moment. So this is like a representation of a timetable environment. I'm sure you kind of familiar with the complexities. We integrate with video recordings. It controls our air conditioning, our student management system, our learning management system. Our activity groups go into our learning management system. So it's a very, very complex environment. It also pays our casual academics. So our timetable is very central. It's kind of a scary thing to change and not something you change very lightly. So yeah, that's our environment. So we implemented Allocate, as Rohit said, in 2019. JDR approached us to partner with them on a timetable system. It was the beta version of Schedule Plus before it was released. We thought it was a good opportunity to review what we wanted and what we needed in the timetable space, and they wanted some business input to their design. So we allocated a business analyst to work with them. They gave us our own instance of Schedule Plus, and we put in our own data, our own demo data. We set it up. We got to play around, understood how it worked. So this is back in 2020, and JDR supported us along the way. We had fortnightly meetings, checked in on their requirements. They treated it like a production instance, so they gave us updates fortnightly. They would drop new things in. They gave us release notes for it. They would say, we'll do this within a month's time, and then they would deliver that drop in a month's time. And as Brooke was saying, it was a real workshop concept where we would come up and go, we have a need for this, we think it's a gap, and then they would workshop, could it work like this? No, maybe it would work better like this, and other universities need this, and then they wouldn't come back with what we asked. They would come back with something that was, standardised, that was not always what we had planned, but it was clear alignment to best practice, and they gave us alternatives sometimes to what we wanted to do, and so although we had a lot of input into the concepts, we didn't necessarily have input into exactly how it worked in syllabus, which was really good for us because you can very easily just carry on doing what you're doing rather than rethink it. They're always very open to feedback, as he will tell you, I'm sure. So at the end of that, it was in the COVID era and our funding was not looking very good, and it really just got shelved for a while. And probably for the last almost 12 months, we haven't done a lot in that space. We've still kept our beta version. And then in the middle of this year, we started up a parallel trial where we doing that alongside our syllabus version. So I'll hand over to Eve, who's doing the trial, and she can tell you all the ins and outs of how it works.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Eve. I was very lucky to also have some input in that beta version. Of course, as Rohit said, I then decided to get pregnant during COVID, like a lot of other people did. And went off and had a baby, came back and, found out that this is still around and hadn't progressed much. That was very interesting to see. With the trial, we're looking at how we can convert the data that we already have. We don't want to rebuild it. I don't want to do data entry. I don't want to do any manual entry if I can. And how we can use the integration and the ability to transfer the information from syllabus into schedule with minimal work from me. You know, that's what everybody wants. So we have been able to do that. It's about 95%. Like there's some things that we can't convert because you can't put an apple into an orange. You know, they're both fruit, but they are different systems, and there's going to be some things that you can't translate over. But a lot of it has, and it's all been scheduled and put in exactly how we can view it now. So we're able to run a parallel and look at the same information and both in the same format. One thing that I have noticed is that we're using syllabus speak in the program, so we're not having to refigure and learn how the information is shown, and we can then export that information and be able to compare the two different systems showing the same coding and stuff. So that's one great thing we've been able to do. We're looking at simulating some of the data entry different phases using the data capture special focus, which at the moment is one of our hard points, I would say, with having to export the data out into a web data collector and then bring it back in. Having the ability to capture everything in one database is a really big feature for me. So we limit the amount of time that the system's offline, be able to look at how we can streamline that process and allow more functionality within it. Hopefully next week or the week after, have a go at order scheduling. We've got all of our data in there now, so seeing what that can do, at what level, with all of the many constraints that UQ has. And at the end, basically looking at what determines a good timetable, because everybody, I'm sure, has the experience where your university says to you, so is it a good timetable? And you're like, based on what factors? Is it location? Is it room optimization? Is it on student experience? Are you looking at an academic-centric focus? Are you looking at a student-centric focus? So really pulling that down and seeing what you want to look at and being able to compare the two systems. So we initially started with the 600 activities in there in our demo environment. There's a lot you can do with 600 activities, but it doesn't show you the full picture of what the constraints are normally with it. We've loaded in about 20,000 activities over the semester 1 and semester 2, because it's about 10,000 in each, into the system, and seeing how that can perform with that amount of data in there. We're also soon, in the next few weeks, going to put in all of our ad hoc data, because as you saw previously, we have 30,000 ad hoc activities through our room booking system that feeds into the timetabling system. So we need to capture that data to show the constraint level with the rooms and everything. So this is a really clear picture on the problems we have at UQ, one of our main problems, which is location constraints and what people call optimizing their locations and making sure that you're able to timetable, but you don't want to have empty spaces. So a lot of people would look at this and go, oh wow, we've got great space optimization with 80% of the cohort, the collab spaces being used. I look at this as a timetabler and go, how is it physically possible for me to schedule into our collab spaces? This graph is not taking into consideration timetabling complexities. It's not taking into staff unavailability, pathways, room requirements, such as if you need 2 data projectors, not 1 data projector. And it just is looking at a supply and demand, and assuming that everything can fit neatly into a Monday to Friday, 8 to 6 p.m. timetable. So I'm really interested to see, with these sort of constraints, how the auto scheduler is able to schedule this layer and fit things in, and what's the percentage that we get from it to be able to then focus on modifying and moving things rather than clicking a button 10,000 times to get all the data in. This, I know Brooke showed you her layout and stuff, which I've looked at many, many times. But this is how I use it. So it's a different view of it. And when I first saw it, thought, oh, this is not for me. Why do you not have a horizontal landscape? You know, come on, people. We don't work vertically, we work horizontal. So I've been able to, over the last 2 months of using the system on a daily basis, been able to configure it for how I use it. How you use it might be different. But here we can see on the left-hand side all of the subject information, the timetable for that whole subject, easily highlighted. We can move stuff in that grid if we wanted to. But on the right-hand side, I don't use the activity groups a lot when I'm actually doing post-publication changes or moving things, because we use that a lot when we're doing creation, not modification. And then on the right-hand side, my activities and all the details that I want, because I work in a list view. I move things in a grid, but I like to view things in lists. So that's one of them. And then with a click of a button, I can make this view happen, right? Because you're able to look at the subject view, close that grid, and then open up your activity view. You can pull this across 2 screens. So you can have on the right screen, you can have your activities and the grid, and then on the left screen, by just having it so that they're spaced out, you can have your course information. So a lot of people like to be able to move them around and have, you know, different information on one screen and that sort of stuff. There is limitations with a SaaS product, you know, with what you can do in a web browser and stuff. But there's always workarounds. With this activity view on the right-hand side and that grid, I do spend a lot of the time with the show details not showing, so that grid is bigger, because I want to see the grid. If I want to modify something, I'll click on the activity and then click the show details button, which will then let me to modify the locations and all that stuff. So what we think so far, as I was saying, scalability. If you want to run auto schedule, or you want to bulk schedule 1,000 activities, 50, whatever you want, the availability to scale on the AWS system is amazing. That's one of the things we know with our current system we have problems with. I keep crashing it, you know. A lot of you would know the freeze button. You're like, please don't crash. Please keep going. And so we know that if we're going to do that, we just tell JDR they'll be able to scale up on the Amazon Web System servers and be able to increase how much we need. Being a SaaS product, you know, we're able to save the layout. And that is such a huge function as a person like me. Like, I can save my config file and load that on all my different computers. But the people at the schools and the people at the faculties can't do that, because they may only use the system 20% of their whole work, you know, in a day. You know, they might only use it 5 times a week and that sort of stuff. So if I'm showing a new person or going out to a school and showing them how to do something, I can share my layout, walk over there, they turn on, they enter into the system, they open my layout that I've made public, and within 30 seconds, they're in the system doing the data exactly how I viewed it. I can be sitting on my computer at home, working away. I then go, oh, you know, I actually want to sit outside. I need some, you know, fresh air. I take my laptop, I open it, it's exactly the same. It's like less than 30 seconds. You know, at the moment, I'm 20 minutes going, please open. I know there's a lot of data in you, so we have that problem. And of course, the main focus, the integration with Allocate Plus, the ability to, if we want it to happen, we can make a change, and then it's available in Allocate Plus, not having to wait sometimes 2 hours for the information after we've scheduled it to show up for the students. Also, the option of what they see and when they see it. So we might have published our semester 1 timetable and we're creating our semester 2 timetable. We don't necessarily want the semester 2 timetable public, because that could cause a lot of issues when students see their classes moving everywhere while we're doing draft mode and that sort of thing. So you're able to choose at any level, but mainly activity level, what is being published when, and we have the access to be able to do that. Some of the things that are opportunities, issues, is I've used syllabus for many, many years. It's vertical, not landscape. There's a reason for that because of the type of product it is. As most of you would know, that nearly all web products or a SaaS product will be vertical. And when I first started it, I thought it was a lot more of a problem than what it is now. After being using it for 2 months on a daily basis and realising that there's ways to work around and get used to it, I don't notice it as much anymore. So maybe when I get to 7 years experience with Schedule Plus, I'll be able to not even remember what it was like working in landscape. It is a web application, so I am, as a lot of people would be used to, being able to move your constraints over there and put in your other grid over there and having all your screens working and that sort of stuff. We have the opportunity to open up in different web browsers and they work independently. It's just a different way of thinking, and most universities over the next year or two will be moving to a SaaS product. So it's looking at what opportunities that product has, not trying to make that product be what already exists, which was a huge mindset change for me. And the main thing that we're finding, which is that last 5% I was talking about, is I keep on asking, as Brooke would know, oh, I need it to do this, and no, I need it to do this. And she never says no, but she says why. I'm like, no, I don't want you to ask me why. Just like, I'm telling you what I need. Please just make it happen. And then, we go many, many conversations of why, Eve, why? And then by the end, it's like, okay, so the current reason why you're doing it, it was because it was a workaround, because your current system was a patch on a patch on a patch, and that's a huge risk on why you're doing it like that, when instead of doing it that way, this might be a streamlined way of doing it that has minimal risk, or this is a better way of doing it, or this is the way that this system can do that same function. And a perfect example is our user text files of yesterday when I was talking to her. And I was like, I need 5 of them. This has only got 2, I need 5. And she's like, why do you need 5 notes? I'm like, because that's what we have. Finding out that we have them because the current system doesn't allow us to have a button to be able to say, I want this to be a high priority activity. We will type the word high instead. And finding out that this system can have customized attributes and I can make all the buttons I want. And having that risk of someone clicking a button then typing in words wasn't even a factor to me, that this is a workaround and the workaround's actually better. So being able to look at it like that. So as you probably have guessed, our partnership with JDR is the main reason why I find the project so far is being very successful, with the ability to send an email, the ability to have a chat, pick up the phone, whatever, and get a response. It sounds like, I don't think it's rocket science, but if you ask someone or your vendor, whoever it is working with you, and you send them an email, you hope to get a response, would be like the minimal level of service that I would expect, okay? And we all know from Allocate, a lot of us, sorry, Rach, that, that's the main thing that you get, is it might do what you want, there might be things you need it to do, but JDR will provide you the support to do that. Considering all the different options, not just doing what we want it to do, and loading the different data in as we do it at all the points, the key points that we want it in, prior to scheduling, post-scheduling, at data capture, and then actually loading in our scheduled activities every Monday so we can run a parallel between the two systems.
Yeah, so that's about what we got to talk about. So what now? Well, Eve tells me that the product goes a long way towards what we needed to do, and we think it will suit the majority of our needs. We are working through some of our business processes that need to work differently or may require system changes, and there's still some work to do there. And we are busy looking at a business case for implementation. So at this stage, that's about all we can really say. Is that
Yeah.
we're carrying on to working through the process. But I'm sure Eve's happy to take questions if anybody.
Basically, the system does what every other system that is a timetabling system can do. For me, it wasn't about, okay, let's look at a system and not meet the minimum requirement, our mandatory requirements of the current system. I'm not going to move or recommend a moving to a new system if it's going to go backwards or not be better. So I'm all about what features can it do that we can't do? What features do we need it to do for us to look to the future in 5 years, what we want a timetabler to look at, to look like? And also, how can I make my job easier? Because I don't have enough time. That's it.
Okay, has anyone got any questions for Vivian and Eve? This is dangerous walking backwards, but okay. Yep.
I'm just curious. So you were using Syllabus Plus.
We are using Syllabus.
And Allocate Plus. Did you notice when you started using Schedule Plus that some things you might have done in Allocate Plus changed? Any processes, any business?
Yeah, a
thingos?
perfect example of that, which I'm excited about, which has been an upgrade in Allocate, is linkages. A lot of stuff that you can do in Allocate, you will be able to do in Schedule. So minimising the workload of not having to do it twice or not having to do a workaround with the existing system provides a more streamlined process. And
So
that's
there's co-taught activities as well?
yeah, and all that sort of stuff. Not having variants anymore and having to deal with when you move a variant and you schedule it and unschedules the other one. We don't have those problems that we have, and it's seamless.
Anyone else?
Feel free to talk to me tonight. I'll be drinking. You'll get everything out of me. It's fine.
That's good.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm now being crossed off the list for the dinner.
No, I think you deserve a drink.
Oh, thank you. It's been a very busy 2 months.
Projects are always hard, and what I want to just touch on is, did you approach it having two different teams trying to do BAU and also your project, or did you try and say, okay, we'll get to a point in current production and then we'll try and work this in? I just want to get an overview of how you approach this.
We've been very clear it's been a project on the side all along, but we've been lucky enough to get the timetablers involved in the project. So Eve actually is on secondment to a project style role, and we've done that for all of our implementations. I think it's much easier to actually take it on separately.
I've been working in the timetabling team at UQ for just over 6 years in the team leader role there. So I know all the ins and outs of the current system. So when I see things aren't working, and I definitely know it helps Paul when he's done our integration, he goes, what is this code? Like, why do you do it this way? I'm able to go back into our current system and say, just ignore that. That's just an Eve thing workaround I've done. You can just delete it. You don't need it. And those sort of things have been really beneficial for both parties, I think.
Anyone else? As Eve said, she'll be on show tonight at the at the restaurant. So yeah, but before you go, hang on. I wanted to give you guys a thank you from us for. It's not just for what you said just now. It's really for all the hard work you guys have done in helping us get to where we are today with Schedule Plus. We are so thankful for all the hard work you guys have done. All right, thanks guys.